Hey, Oscar fans, if you want an informed voice about who's really going to win these Academy Awards, this is Thelma Adams. This is one of the smartest, most prestigious, legendary pundits in the business who has been with us for 20 years, Thelma. This is our 20th.
Hooray. This is our 20th year. I'm so glad. Am I going to get a gold watch? I don't want a gold watch. I'm just happy to be doing this with you and still be disagreeing and still teasing each other.
Good. I love to rock and roll with you, Thelma. Okay, so Best Picture is the big cliffhanger this year right now. So there are very compelling arguments for 1917 versus Parasite. Where do you stand and why?
Okay, you know what? I have to say this first, that I love the movies this year, that there are so many good ones that I could be happy with. And I certainly would be happy with either 1917 or Parasite, two very different movies. And it would really be crazy if Parasite won. I just think since it's a lock for Best Foreign Language Film, that kind of takes it down a notch at Best Picture. And the one that will be on most people's ballots is 1917.
And that often determines what the real winner is. Of course, the Academy wants consensus. It's a preferential ballot where the voters just in this category, not in the other 23 categories, rank their favorites. So I see the argument of what you're saying. It's 1917 is likely to. Nobody dislikes it. Many people love it and are crazy for it. So it's probably going to be in year 1, 2, or 3, even if you're voting for Little Women to win.
Right. Exactly.
It's divisive. But Parasite, the counter argument is Parasite has the rooting factor. People who like it are over the moon, invested in it, just crazed about it. And we have to look back at the year of Revenant versus Spotlight. Everyone was going, oh, Revenant's got it, Revenant's got it. But you know what? Those voters really love Spotlight. Or La La Land. But you know what? Those voters really like Moonlight. And Moonlight's the perfect analogy, Thelma, because it didn't win DGA. It didn't win the...
right.
So you lean a little toward...
I think this is the question. I think that we can broaden out and put Best Picture and Best Director together. And the question is, 1917 and Parasite will be recognized, but is it going to be split? So is 1917 going to win Best Picture and then Bong wins Best Director? Is it going to be Sam Mendes Best Director? I really feel like, I think that you're right. The energy in the room right now is Parasite. And the question is whether the more relatively conservative film, 1917, will come through. And there's a lot of writing about it. I know, I read the piece in Variety that Owen Gleiberman wrote where he just, there are some people who dismiss 1917 and say, the gimmick of the one shot is the problem. But I think it really is in many ways a perfect movie. It also suffers, and this, it did not get any acting nominations. So we don't know how that will play out.
So what's fascinating about this is that those are our two front runners. Normally, you at least get acting nominations, as you say. There are exceptions. Slumdog Millionaire, The Last Emperor, right. I think Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King didn't. I can't remember. But it's not absolutely essential, but it is a little worrisome for both of those movies that they...
But Parasite got SAG Ensemble. So that pushes it up.
It does, but SAG Ensemble has not been right about Best Picture since the Calvin Coolidge administration.
Which you voted in, but let's not discuss that. Okay,
I know.
Let's
yes, I do.
But, so the thing is, how are we going to keep people excited about this year? Because as you look across all of our predictions, they're pretty similar. They're sitting. So where are the upsets, right? Isn't that the question that you're going towards?
Yes. And so that's my question back to you. Of the major Oscar categories, let's start with acting. If they look locked and loaded, those four frontrunners that won at SAG and won at Golden Globe. Nothing in Hollywood goes according to script, Thelma. We know that.
No, it always gets bounced. And of the four that came out of SAG, for best actor, Joaquin Phoenix, he's carrying a big mantle here because he's carrying 11 Oscar noms for Joker. And it's very possible that this is going to be the biggest award. There's no way Joker's winning Best Picture. There's no way it's going to win Best Director, Best Script. So in this case, he's pretty strongly supported by overall support. Adam Driver, who was the frontrunner before, we really saw a slippage of Marriage Story. And there's still a possibility, I think, that Driver could upset. Do you think that that's an option?
I do think that's an option. He's the cool cat now. He's the actor's actor, and this is the industry voting on itself. That's a real possibility. But on the other hand, this kind of does feel like and even look like Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood. And the long hair, the scenery chewing, the furniture smashing. We know the Oscar voters.
The wall bumping, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They love the big bombastic roles. And also there's the issue of the career achievement. This is a man who has not won yet in his career. It's kind
Joaquin.
Joaquin. And I think there's a lot. It's just got all the elements. The one thing it doesn't have, of course, is the snob factor because it's based on a cartoon. It's, so that a comic book thing. So that is the issue here, but it certainly wasn't an issue with Heath Ledger. And if you want to just say, well, that was different because it was a posthumous award and it was had the industry's sympathy vote. Look, we have underestimated Joker over and over and over again in the award race. It broke through it at Venice and began this march in the awards race that we now have to take seriously. It's got the most Oscar nominations, for God's sake. It's got 11.
11. But it also is the least in touch with the Academy base. And this changing Academy, this desire to expand out to women and people of color, it is one of the most out of sync movies in terms of that change and evolution in the Academy.
Right. Let's talk about that. All right. So where's the upset coming if there is one?
If there is one, I'm curious in supporting actress. I think Renee Zellweger, it's an incredible marriage of role and star. At 50, here she is doing, her comeback role playing Judy Garland at her last stand, basically. I think that's pretty much a lock. So I think we have to look at supporting. And I think we have to look at Best Supporting Actress. We love Laura Dern. She's been, great on TV, Big Little Lies, Little Big Lies, a lot of lies. She was fantastic in that. And she's great in Marriage Story. But here we have Scarlett Johansson is double nominated. Marriage Story and for Jojo Rabbit, which, by the way, is one of my favorite movies of the year. And I want it. And part of this is the problem. I want it so bad. I even want Scarlett to get Best Supporting Actress.
Yes, that's the wild card factor here, Thelma. Look, Jojo has been popping up like a real bunny over and over at these Guild Awards. Casting Awards last night. It won at the Editing Awards, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's." We keep discounting it, but it has this passion factor. Look, it won the Audience Award at TIFF, like Slumdog Millionaire and Green Book, etc. And I don't think it's strong enough to win Best Picture on the tails of that tea leaf. But I do think the tea leaf, this TIFF win, is something that we have to recognize, even if you don't like the movie. And some critics don't, but I think that's the same baloney as last year with, we don't like Bohemian Rhapsody and we don't like Green Book, we, the film critics. Oh, you're wrong. Wrong about
you're
it.
Totally
Shut up.
Right. I think that the critics and what the Oscars are, the critics have used to stay out of the Oscars. The critics we're in the critical realm and the Oscars are the Academy. But once we had this world of clickbait and the idea that the Oscars and all of these awards brought people to people's sites, Then we saw the critics stepping in, and often they're tone deaf about what the Academy really wants. And in this case, I love Jojo Rabbit. I would love to see, I mean, she's so beautiful in that role. She's powerful, she's playful. I would be happy to see her upset, to be honest.
And it does harken back to this desire on Academy members' behalf sometimes to give a consolation prize. If you're
right,
if I'm not going to give you that Oscar in lead, okay, here it is in supporting. The classic example is Jessica Lange winning for Tootsie and supporting senior nominated for Frances. That didn't help Sigourney Weaver or Julianne Moore. Years they were double nominated, but and of course Sigourney still hasn't won, but Julianne ended up winning in lead, of course, for Still Alice a few years later.
Right. And that was, and Still Alice was writing that idea that Julianne was overdue.
Yeah.
So that does have an impact, and also two very different roles. And she's a major, and ScarJo's a major movie star. She's in the Marvel universe. So Brad Pitt, I am sorry, I think he's a lock.
Yeah, he is a lock.
Which hurts The Irishman, but The Irishman also has two, it has Pesci and Pacino against each other. So that's going to split a little bit of that love. If there's an upset, I think it would be Pesci. Who knows? It could be Anthony Hopkins, that sleeper two popes that people really love, and it might be the last disc they watch before they vote, and they'll realize, oh my God, this was a fabulous movie. These are fabulous acting. These are fabulous performances. But I'm sorry, Brad Pitt up on the roof, that is a moment. That is a star moment in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
But he's portraying Brad Pitt, and that is often an issue. They want you to embody another role. They want you to play against type, and he's got that against him. But he is also in that supporting actor role, which is often given out to career achievement. And that he's got the, Christopher Plummer won for Beginners a couple of years ago.
Right.
And Jack Palance, and on, Alan Arkin, on and
on.
So he's got that going for him. And actually, it is a lead role that's slumming it in supporting. I mean,
I think that's completely true. It's a lead role slumming and supporting, and that makes him stronger.
Yeah.
And also, he plays the crowd. He is a smooth operator at every event he's in. When he goes to an event and he wears his Brad Pitt name tag, I mean, this is a guy that knows how to casual it.
And his acceptance speech at the Golden Globes was so brilliant. He picked up his globe and says, "This will look really good on my Tinder account." I mean, that's his acceptance speech. I mean, it was brilliant. Perfect
and easygoing. So I think that's a lock. So then again, if we're going to see some shifts, let's get behind ScarJo.
I think it's a real possibility. I'm constantly tempted to switch out for ScarJo. I might do it getting closer to Sunday. I don't know.
I know. We don't know. And also, I have a little worry about Joaquin. There's something inside me that's just, in part because I've interviewed him, and I know that he's trying really hard as like Johnny Cash to walk the line. And I just, I kept waiting for him to implode, and he hasn't. So God bless him. He may win.
Yeah, he's really trying. You may not remember this, but going back to the Walk the Line year, there was at the Toronto Film Festival, you and I were upstairs at this party.
Upstairs at that party.
And it was like Cartier or Tiffany. It had glass boxes, whatever it was. And the point was, you and I were standing here chit-chatting, and on the other side, through the glass box, was Joaquin, and some publicist was, "Come over here and talk to Thelma and Tom." And so we started talking to him, and this odd choreography took over where, as you and I talked to him, he kept the glass between us. So we around that, and he was actually conversing, but it was like, it was so weird. It was just so off the charts. Yeah. Finally, he went off, but he was trying.
Right, and I interviewed him for The Immigrant, and we were at some Tribeca hotel with the director, James Gray. and he just didn't want to be there. And he was throwing down everything he could to alienate me. I would say, oh, I really like you in The Immigrant. And he would say, oh, you have horrible taste. He just kept trying. He was like a toddler that was trying to jostle me. And I remember that. And I wonder how many other people who were in the industry as long as you and me are like, okay.
Yeah.
How much
we forgive him for being damaged goods, because that's
yes,
artist in him. He's had, of course, a very difficult life.
But you remember this with someone like Sylvester Stallone, when he most recently was nominated, and it seemed like he was the front runner. There was a real an undertow of people who had had bad experiences with him, and you heard that all along the way. And so a lot of people thought he'd win, and he didn't. Similarly, I mean, Eddie Murphy, maybe this year, this year that Best Actor category was so tight that someone wasn't going to make it in. I would have loved a world where Eddie Murphy was one of those 5.
Oh, me too. And I think that had he gotten nominated, I think he had a real chance of winning. He was really working it this year. He was at the parties. Right. He was standing. He was communicating to all of us. And actually, at this Netflix party I was at back in December, a publicist was coming up to me and to everyone there saying, "Here, do you want to talk to Eddie now? He's changed. He's real." It was part of the, hey, he's right over here. Do you want to meet him kind of thing? He's different. Okay. And yeah, that may have caught up to him, but I think that the shortened Oscar season did Eddie. And I think they just didn't see Dolomite. Yeah. They just didn't.
I think that's true.
Yeah. It's a shame. It should have gotten in for costumes, should have gotten in for a lot of things. And look, we ended up with only one person of color being nominated for acting. And Cynthia Erivo just happens to portray the cliche.
Right.
Why didn't the Parasite actors get in? Come on. I'm not sure they're trying hard enough. Right.
No, I think that's true. And I think that also with Parasite, it's from Neon. And they, it's amazing it's gotten as far as it has.
I know.
Given that it doesn't have a big studio behind it.
But I was looking just yesterday at the methodology that the Academy uses, and there was the reminder list. So if you go to Oscars.org to the rule regulation section, you can see what the voters see, which is while they have to fill in the names on their ballots and say, and that's how Kate Winslet gets nominated twice, is that they don't know, you're not locked into a category. There's some freedom there.
Right.
But all of a sudden you can see the problem with the Oscar voters going, oh, I don't know how to spell these Asian names and put them on the list.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of cultural ignorance to all of this too, we know.
Yes, I agree. So what else? We see a coalescing.
Okay. So, screenplay, Little Women, everyone says is out front. This, Greta Gerwig's in the bag. They're saying no woman has won an Oscar for writing in 12 years. But, there's Jojo Rabbit in that race, Thelma. And I think that's just so appealing. I've got Jojo beating Little Women, and I'm in the minority. How do you size up?
Yes, you are. That's a really good point. It is, and the question is, I think the screenwriting should be you should reward the best script. It shouldn't be a consolation prize. And so one feels with Little Women, like the fact that she didn't get the Director Guild nomination, she didn't get a nomination for Best Director. There's been a lot of what would you call it? Angst, despair.
Yeah, backlash. People are pissed off.
And I just want to put one thing in here. This is a pipeline issue. It's not an awards issue. As we saw in Sundance, there were many, many more women directors. As more women directors come up, they will be a bigger presence. This year, a little tough. It was a tough year. And if you look at the director category, yes, Greta should have been a part of it, but Taika Waititi should have been a part of it. Fernanda Murray for The Two Popes, a brilliant director. So there's an undercurrent of feeling, I think, in the Academy that we didn't need another Little Women, and it didn't matter. It does in some senses. Although I think it's a really, really good movie and a great script and hugely well directed, I'm just not sure how much that weighs. What do you think?
Well, I want to turn it right back to you and put it in this question form. I was talking to an Academy member the other day, and she was very, very strong on this opinion of, well, if you have gender-specific roles, categories for actors, why don't you do it for director?
No.
Why don't you have best male director and best female director and best screenplay, male and screenplay? What do you think of that? Or should we? Because we know if we get rid of the gender designation for acting, it's only going to be men winning.
Okay, so, Tom, here's what I think in answer to your question. I think the future is where the change is. And the change has to be made in funding films directed by women. And that part right now, we're all out talking about gender equality. It's part of the mix. It's part of, it started before where Cannes did not have any female directors or very few. And now that's an issue. And over the past 3 to 5 years, we've really seen a change. It may seem glacial, but it's a change. So in effect, if you decide there's a best female director and a best male director, you're going backwards, not forwards.
I know. But look at the best animated feature race this year. Frozen 2 didn't get nominated, but the other sequels did, the Toy Story 4 and Dragon 3. It's just really surprising that the biggest animated movie of the year, which happens to be female perspective and female focus, is the one that was snubbed. It's just, there really still is, you can see it through that Oscar list, still is an old white boys club bias. There just is.
You're speaking to the choir. There just is, and I know, and I would say for me, watching Joker, I was like, this is a movie about white male rage, and it resonates in Hollywood. And if I read Owen and Owen says I talked to 100 people and they all agree with me about Joker, I would say talk to 100 different people.
Absolutely. I love Joker. I thought it was a masterpiece. Courage. And such courage to wait till the second half of the movie to turn him into the Joker and actually make us sympathize with him as a character. This is not a winking devil. This isn't Heath Ledger's Joker or Jack Nicholson's Joker. This is he's deranged and unhinged. But boy, they do a superb job making us empathize with his character anyway.
Okay, I'm silent because I'm like, I didn't. Okay. But that's all right. You and I have sat next to each other in movies, and we're not always on the same page.
Right. Animated feature. Let's talk about that one. We had, Toy Story 4 was the presumed frontrunner, and then Missing Link won Best Animated Feature at the Golden Globes. And then at the Annie Awards, the industry's own prize, Klaus won 9, and Toy Story 4 got skunked completely. But yet someone was, Ann Thompson was telling me the other day, the Annies are biased towards 2D movies. That's how that happened. I don't the details of that kind of trend, but it does.
That I Lost My Body, which is on the rise.
Yeah, but I think that the Netflix factor is what's interesting here. You just know, at Christmas time, in the homes of Oscar voters, they had their grandkids running around, they had Netflix on, and the big Christmas feature was Klaus. Because they couldn't get around it. In the domestic scenes during when Oscar voting for nominations started. So in the shortened season where they're rushing to see everything and so many things didn't get seen.
And that gets dropped. I think that animation gets thrown down. Documentary, hugely strong year. Is this the year in the, as Trump is weaseling in the impeachment, is this the year that we give Obama the American Factory? Then he's president, he's the Oscar, she has a Grammy. It's this really
There's multiple Grammys now. I know. Maybe so, but I don't know.
That's a tough category too, because there are so many. And when you boil it down to 5 nominees, I mean, I love the David Crosby doc. It's not there. I love the Linda Ronstadt doc. It's not there.
The Apollo doc was beloved.
Fantastic. Yeah.
11, the Apollo one. And I think
Right.
the two canceled each other out. I think there was a kind of
It's possible. Confusion.
fusion there. But I loved American Factory was good, but I think it's a little dispassionate. For Sama, am I pronouncing it correct?
For Sama. It's fantastic.
Yeah, such heart to it, and the cave is so compelling. It's from a courageous woman's point of view, struggling on both of those. These have emotional factors set against world issues. American Factory does, of course, but these other factors often weigh in. I think I have For Sama up there now, winning. 2 days ago, I had American Factory. I'll probably change again.
You know what? We'll still move some things around. But now, we skipped over. We got adapted screenplay. What about original screenplay? Do we think that Parasite's going to pull through there?
Wow, that's a good one, because there's this Quentin Tarantino thing going on in this town.
Oh,
That boy
let's talk
everybody
about
loved.
that.
And he has won screenplay twice at the Oscars, and he's won here on a roll. He won the Golden Globe, the Critics' Choice for screenplay. He's not eligible at DGA because he's not a member of the Guild, so we won't see him pop up there. But they just love to see Quentin on stage. They just love the bad boy up there still doing it after all these years, a man who refuses to cave into modern technology. I heard the other day he doesn't have a cell phone. How is that possible? But
He has an assistant with a cell phone.
Okay.
That's how it's possible.
Oh, he still insists on old projection type methods for his movies and stuff. He's a little eccentric, but I think Hollywood is forgiving. And the appeal of the bad boy there is the wild card, because the name.
I think it's kind of a cult. I think the Tarantino thing is a cult, and I would say that his dialogue is so ripe, and it's you could sit and study it. It's so good. But there's some really great screenplays, and I would say, having just sat yesterday and read the screenplay from 1917, it's a pretty perfect.
Yeah, but it's not nominated. It's not nominated for screenplay. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
It's Mendez and Christy Wilson Cairns.
Gotcha.
And she is a rising female screenwriter. She's fantastic.
Parasite is interesting because there's all this love for it. It is a beautifully written and crafted movie. But does it hurt that it's not in the English language? That you're reading a movie, in effect? Now, Pedro Almodovar won for Talk to Her a couple years ago.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It can happen, but that could be a bias. It could be a problem.
That could be a problem. Although it is a beautifully structured script. And every character in that, you could tell that story with every single character in the lead. You could shift it around. Every character is developed with an amazing shorthand.
Yeah.
Love that script.
Yeah. Of course, 1917 is up for screenplay. I'm looking at the list now. We've got it in last place at Gold Derby. That's terrible.
I read it yesterday and I wept at the end. I wept reading the screenplay. It's so it's so spare. Excellent. Okay,
Thelma, let's wrap it up here.
Okay.
Keep your predictions, updated as your mind changes, and I do too. That part of the fun for all of us, including those of you watching and listening, is the fact that you update your predictions so that we have this kind of latest fever chart for where we all stand on these categories.
Right.
And in fact, change is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because this is a race, baby.
Completely. And also, I feel like we're all kind of hewing very close on Gold Derby to there's not a lot of wide wobble, but there's got to be surprises. There always are.
Oh, yeah. Of course, you can count on that. We've had more than 60,000 people make Oscar predictions at Gold Derby in the last few years, and nobody has ever gotten 100%. There's your challenge.
Wow.
Of course.
There's my that is a big challenge. Thank you.
Well, it's your year. I just feel it.
I'm overdue. Thank you.
Thanks, Thelma.
Thank you.